Hi, my name is Ed, and you are welcome to come on over and be blessed with some good food and, of course, the Word of God. Sharing tonight 4-hour smoked apple prime beef brisket is the following items. We will be using the Blaze Kamado, the BBQ Dragon Fire Starter and Fan, Snowline Orchard's apple cider freshly pressed from Oakland, California, Heaven Made Products beef brisket rub, glacier water from Glacier Isle, Iceland, yes, the country of Iceland, Sam's Club prime beef brisket, USDA, Jealous Devil lump charcoals with western apple and hickory wood, and a midst of other things tools that are used. This video is going to go over the step-by-step processes I did in 12 hours to accomplish this beautiful brisket fully cooked. And yes, it did take 12 hours. Actually, 1 hour to prep and start up the everything, which included the rub and the trimming and the setup of the fire under Blaze Kamado. It might have been about an hour and a half. It was about 9:30-ish that we started to drop the meat into the grill, and it was not taken out till about 9:30 the next day, with a few exceptions. So we will go over those as we start looking into the step-by-step process here. Trimming the fat. Yes, I might have gone a little bit too far in trimming the fat on this brisket because it did lose some of the fat flavor in terms of the point, not the point, the flat side of the brisket. As you can see in this video here, I'm using the Akai Pearl to do my scale of how much fat is being used or being trimmed per se, so that I can know basically per pound how long I will be cooking this brisket. And it came up to about 4 pounds of waste. I could have probably kept some of it in there, but I trimmed it down to, pretty much the meat on both sides. Learning curve for me would be to at least keep some of the fat on the flat side of the brisket. The point was okay because it has an area where the flat kind of connects to the point, and it has a load of fat on that area. But I did trim that down as well, only to avoid excessive amount of fat in meat. Next we have what is rub the brisket, and I am using the Members Mark granulated garlic, and I'm using Heaven Made Products Texas Best Brisket Rub. I like these guys. These are godly people. I like to do business with anybody that's godly. So with that being said, I used a generous portion of their rub along with the garlic powder and some, not that much, brown sugar. As you can see with what I do with the mixing of these items, I do tare and put specific amounts of grams of each item or ingredient into a bowl. And then I use a whisk, like I'm basically beating an egg and making it scramble. I'm doing the same with regards to the the different kinds of powders and peppers and salts that I use, which prevents the clumping, because when I start to whisk it, it basically grinds it all down to nice powder, or like salt, and you can just spread it all over the food. And I'm not hesitant to hold back anything. I just pretty much, cover the entire brisket with the rub so that it's nicely packed in. I do not bind this with olive oil or any kind of oil. I just figure that the meat has enough juice and fat in it that it will bind itself, and I didn't really see any issues with it. The bark at the completion of this cook was really, really good. I didn't have any problems with it. When I'm done making this rub onto the brisket, I then took the entire brisket into the refrigerator until I got the next project, which was the fire management and the grill setup. The setup with the grill consisted of a deflector plate, a water pan, the BBQ Dragon basket and fan blower. I also had a torch lighter to light up the basket. I got the Jealous Devil lump chunks ready, and I put some into the Kamado along with the apple and hickory wood chips or chunks. I started to set up the basket, and with the Jealous Devil chunks, and put like a Stater Brothers newspaper, and I just lit the basket. The BBQ Dragon basket really lights up very quick. I'm presuming about 2 minutes when I'm out here in the desert with 100-degree temperatures. So it's pretty quick to light up. And I had a specific spot on the grill, and I usually try to keep that spot open for dumping everything that's in the basket, and that is over by the bottom damper of the Kamado grill, so that way then I can have control over the fire from the damper. It's the only way I can really get things to work very well. And when fire starts to taper out a little bit, I can control by throwing some little lump chunks in through the port down there at the bottom damper. And then I used the BBQ Dragon fan to blow air inside that damper to create the fire to burn and keep the grill cooking without having to move the second grate or the deflector plate or the pan, water drip pan, or the brisket. I can leave those things alone like I do normally on any kind of smoker, except with this one I have to adjust things based on the bottom damper, and I had adequate room to do that, and it seems like it works okay. Regarding the drip pan, in the initial phase I fill it with water. There's no reason for me to put apple cider on this at this moment. This is a 12-hour cook, so I figure somewhere around 6 hours it's still going to need more cooking, and at that time I'm going to be putting in the apples, the juices and apples and all sorts of things into that pan. I did a visit throughout the night around 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock to check the grill, not opening up the grill, but to check the temperatures, and if there was something that was going down, I would make the adjustments of adding a little more chunks and start using the BBQ blower to bring up the fire and bring up the temps. I noticed this happening at 4 o'clock, and it wasn't until about 4:30, 5 o'clock that I decided that I'm going to pull everything out and fill it up with some new charcoal, new wood chips, and at that time I was going to put in the apples, chopped apples and chopped pears, along with apple cider and a little bit of water, but more cider than the water. And I put it in a pan. I had to take everything out to where I just saw the charcoals at the bottom. And because it was still lit, it was easier for me to take the BBQ blower or the fan and bring it down there after I dropped the wood chunks and the lumps and just light it up by just blowing on it. And then from there, I had to put the grate in, the third tier grate or the second tier grate, and the deflector plate and the pan with apple cider. And then I put the other grate with the brisket. And once I got that all set up, I closed the lid, and then I ended up using the BBQ fan to blow air into the damper to get the temps up to at least 250. At about 6:30 in the morning, I decided to pull the brisket out. It was reading somewhere around at the point 170, 180, and at the flat, it was about 177 as well. And I'm just using a probe device. None of the meat was connected with any probe system with Flame Boss or Guru or Fireboard or even Grill Eye. I just wanted to work on it by myself and learn how to do the cooking without having any devices trying to assist me. So, with that being said, I then took the brisket out and I wrapped it with butcher paper. And before I wrapped it all up, I poured in some of that wonderful apple juice cider that was on the grill that was already being smoked, and the apples were being kind of mushy. I took that juice and I started pouring it inside the butcher paper. I wrapped up the butcher paper and put it right back in the grill for 2 hours. After 2 hours, I ended up taking the whole piece of meat out. It seemed like I might have encountered a stall because I still got the same readings of around 180, 188 on the point, and on the flat was still around 170, 175. So rather than, continuing on the cooking process, it was already 12 hours. I decided to pull it out. And it was good that I did because the meat didn't have a lot of fat, and some of the flat area of the meat was pretty dry a little bit, but it was still moist. I cut the end on it and I ate it. It was very, very good, very juicy. But it was still borderline heading towards a well done factor of the brisket. So it was good that I just pulled it out. So my rule with the 12 hours, 1 pound an hour at 225, 250 seemed to work very well with this, and I will continue to follow that protocol. In regards to once I got the package off the grill, I let it cool down for an hour at room temperature. I didn't even put it in the fridge or anything. I just took it out. But I did one thing that may or may not matter, but I just thought, why not? I already had a cooking pan or a cookie pan, and I just turned the brisket upside down where it was the fat or the cap side now facing down. And that's where all the juices started to go the direction of the bottom to the fat side, and it started to saturate that. By the time an hour was up and I started to open up the paper, there really wasn't any I didn't see much of any juice in it at all. So um, the juice itself kind of saturated itself back into the meat. And so I threw out the butcher paper and then started to slice the meat. So this was the whole step-by-step process. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks, bye.